Hi, welcome to Minerva. This is going to be about future dreams. I'm hoping that maybe I can give you some insight on seeing the future if you're someone who's trying to navigate this, or maybe you just don't believe people can see into the future and you're trying to understand why. I probably can't give you the answer, but who knows, maybe you can get some insight. So there are some of us who can see certain things into the future, and there are some people that I realize can see huge things in the future. I'm not those people. I can't do that. When I had spoken about my NDE and the future possibility, it was a specific scenario that was outside of my normal day-to-day. And as I stated in that video, I generally, most of the stuff that I see or have knowledge of is related to people crossing over as opposed to just day-to-day events. But I have had seen or experienced things in day-to-day, but it's only related to me. So let me give you an example so you can understand. I'm gonna speak about this one that is a little bit different from the others because I got so many chances, which I'm grateful for. In this particular dream, it happened, actually I had 3 dreams over 3 days. The first dream, there was a coworker that came into a conference room that I was in with 2 other coworkers. This coworker said something inappropriate, and then I responded and he left. The first time I responded, I said that was very inappropriate. That's something that could get you in trouble with HR. You shouldn't say something like that. I'm deeply offended by it. He leaves and me and my coworkers go back to our desk. Then I get called into the office by my supervisor and I was told I was being terminated for saying the inappropriate comment that my coworker actually said to me. So he went and lied and said I said that. And I'm not saying the comments, by the way, but they had said that I said it and I was being terminated. The second night, same dream, same inappropriate comment, except this time I decided to go about it differently. I asked him, why did you say that? And he said nothing. He just walks out. Me and the other girls look at each other like we did the time before, but we had left the room and went back to our desk. And at that point in time, I get called into the office again by my supervisor. And she lets me know I'm being written up for saying the inappropriate comment that he had said. Now, I just want to add before I go into the third time that this is just the personality of this person. He is someone that does that. He has done that to me before, not necessarily with an inappropriate comment, of course, but he's the type of person that if you're like, hey, you're not supposed to do that, he will go and say that you did something because he wants to prevent himself from getting in trouble. So he'll essentially say that you did it because you're the one that said something. So he doesn't want you to have any type of credibility, in other words. Okay, getting back to the dream. Third night, same scenario, of course. We're in the conference room, me and my 2 coworkers. He comes in, he says the inappropriate comment, but this time I was like, you know what? The last 2 times I was serious. I had said something in a very serious tone the first time. Second time I asked the question. This time I'm just gonna jokingly say something. So I jokingly say something like, ha ha ha, I can't believe you said that. And he leaves. Again, he does not say anything. He comes and he goes the same way. It's like he comes in, I say whatever, and he looks like he's thinking about what I said, like he's processing it, and then he just leaves. Me and the girls will look at each other. I'm thinking, okay, this should work this time because I was serious. I was just like, haha, I can't believe you said that. And when I go back to my desk, I get called into the office and I get a verbal warning. So each time I'm in less trouble because the first time I'm terminated, the second time is a written warning, the third time is a verbal warning. And I'm just like, I can't win. I can't win this. I'm thinking the 4th day, of course, I'm probably going to have the dream again. And maybe this time I'll do something differently And I was just trying to think of what else could I have said or done? Like, what could it be? I went about my work as usual, had a meeting in the conference room. It's a recurring meeting that I always have. And me and two other girls were talking after the meeting. The same coworker, walks in, and I realized at that moment in time, this is the dream. I immediately froze and I start to sweat. I'm scared. You have flight or fright. It was a fright moment for me. Oh no, fight or flight. It was a fright moment. It wasn't a flight. It wasn't a fight. It was a fright. So I don't know why they don't put the fright part in, but it was fright for me. Fright for fear. And I just froze. Deer in headlights, sweating, nervous, because I'm just like, I didn't get to dream the dream again to know the most appropriate response. And I failed all the other times. He comes in. He says the inappropriate comment. I freeze. And he looks the same way he always does the other 3 times, which is him processing, and he just leaves. And me and my coworkers look at each other like we did the other times, and we leave, and I go to my desk, and I am sweating because I am waiting for me to be called into my supervisor's office, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I was nervous until the end of the day. When the end of the day happened, I realized, oh my gosh, that was the most appropriate way to handle this, which is nothing, to say nothing. But I didn't say anything because I was scared and I didn't know what to say. It was just pure fear at that moment because I'm like, I'm going to get in trouble for this person saying something completely inappropriate to us. Anyways, so, and I'm sure some people are probably wondering, why didn't I go say something to the supervisor or whatever? Because this person, as I stated before, has the personality where if you tell him something, he'll go and tell on you or whatever. But the thing is, I've done that before where I was like, okay, this person did something, whatever, and he turns it around on you and he'll make something up. He's a liar. So going and saying something doesn't do anything because all that's going to happen is I'll get in trouble and he'll just continue doing whatever he does. So it's a waste of time because it just doesn't work. You can't fight a liar. You just can't. So, or at least that's what I learned in my experience. Anyways, these 3 dreams were a future dream, and I knew it was a future dream. It felt like a future dream. My future dreams feel a particular type of way. They feel surreal, but not so real to the point where it feels like, okay, you're just living another life, but it feels real enough, kind of like a memory. And generally, whenever they come true, my body kind of vibrates when it's happening. Kind of like it feels like I'm just being put into the same moment. Like I remember like, oh, this was a dream. So this particular situation, there was 3 different scenarios. And I was able to navigate it unsuccessfully, but successfully, if that makes any sense. And I say this because I just happened to accidentally do the right thing. But there are things that are set in place that are going to happen. So everything is based on everything else. The best way I can explain this is if you saw the movie Mr. Nobody. I think that's what it's called, with Jared Leto. So in this movie, he is living different timelines. And he likes one particular woman the most. Or at least he discovers that that's who he's in love with and he's going to have the best life with. He wanted to figure out how he'd be able to be with her again. And he is living the different experience in hopes to eventually have his chance with her. And in one of them where he realizes, oh, he's going to see this person again, he's going to have the chance with her, he got her number, it rains and the number disappears. And he says this happened because of some guy in some other country, I can't remember which one, cooking dumplings or whatever he was cooking. And so the steam from the pot had caused the rain all the way in his country. And it reminds me of the butterfly effect, essentially. A lot of things are like this. So you do whatever you do in life and it impacts different people. And that can change a trajectory in someone's life. So sometimes people will say, oh, because you did this, this happened. Like, I decided to get into teaching because of this, or I decided to get into nursing because of this. And it's something that impacted them from someone else, right? And this causes you to go on a particular trajectory in your life, and it's just cause and effect over and over and over again. So your decision making impacts different things, and those things can impact other people's lives, which bring you to where you are now. Based on all the things that has happened in everyone's life and different circumstances that they've experienced, that determines how they respond to you. It determines their personality, their future choices, and how they interact. And so whatever happened in that particular coworker's life had brought him to the point where he feels he can say or do whatever it is that he wants. And my life has determined how I respond, right? Now, in that particular moment, because mind you, these dreams happened 3 days in a row, and then boom, it happened the fourth day. By the time I had this dream, this was something that was going to occur based on everything that has occurred in all our lives by that point in time. And I didn't know that that dream was going to occur on the fourth day. I knew I had that meeting, but the scenario of the meeting wasn't the whole meeting and then the aftermath. It was only the aftermath. So I wouldn't know which meeting it was, because we have meetings in that conference room all the time. The particular meeting was one that I had set up that was reoccurring. But what is the likelihood that those two people were going to stay after and talk to me? The people that stay after vary, because anytime I hold a meeting, sometimes people will stay and they'll still talk and ask questions. And it varies who ends up staying and asking questions. So there wasn't going to be a way for me to know that it was that particular meeting. Another thing is there's other meetings that some of us have had where we're standing back and still talking about whatever. But regardless, it happened, right? This was a meeting that was occurring. This meeting was going to happen no matter what. And those particular people, for whatever reason, was going to stay back and continue talking. And he was, for whatever reason, going to come in and say whatever he was going to say. And that was something that was set in stone. But it's so much easier when something is very close in time, because the likelihood of something stopping an event from occurring that close in time is highly unlikely. So let's look at another scenario. I'm going to make this scenario up. This is not something that happened. This is made up. So if, for example, I dreamed that someone I knew was going on vacation somewhere and they were going to have a blast, and I saw pictures or whatever, and that person said, oh my gosh, I'm going to go on vacation at whatever time, and I'm going to go to XYZ location. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I dreamt of that, whatever. And then what happens? The time comes and they didn't go on vacation. And I see the person, I'm like, oh, how was your vacation? Oh, I didn't go. What happened? My passport was going to expire within 6 months, so they wouldn't let me board the plane. Okay, maybe I had this dream 3 months in advance. And at the time that I had the dream, this was definitely a possible scenario. It was going to happen. They had booked the tickets. They already had the itinerary for what they were going to do. They had packed their luggage. They showed up and all that jazz. But the passport wasn't done. And they didn't realize, like, oh, if it's less than 6 months, they need to go ahead and renew, because they may not let you board the flight. So in this scenario, you could say, okay, well, at the time you had the dream, it seemed like a very possible future, but it didn't happen because of a break in the chain, which was the passport, right? Now, this doesn't happen to me. I don't dream about things like that. Generally, I have to be involved somehow. So it's one of those things where it's directly impacting me. But in this scenario, this is an example of something that could potentially not happen. And it's a possible future. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because for people who do see things in the future, they could potentially see something that is a strong possibility, but it doesn't occur because some kind of a break, something that shifted that potential future. And it doesn't mean that they can't see at all, especially if they see a lot in the future and they just have a couple things wrong here and there. It's just that some of the things could possibly change. But if someone can see certain things in the future, generally it should be a majority of things are going to happen when it's like far in the future. So I don't know what that percentage would be. I can't tell you it's going to be 60% or 70%, 80, whatever, but it should be a good high majority if they can see in the future. For me, when I'm seeing certain things in the future, it's very close in time, but there are some times where it's a little further, and they usually don't make any sense to me when it's further out. And again, it's usually based on my life. So I'll give you another example of another dream. I have so many, but we're not going to focus on all of them, of course. This one's simple and easy. I was working in a job, regular job that I always go to several times. And I had a dream. And in this dream, it was about a job. That wasn't the job that I normally show up in. And I was confused because I looked around in this dream and I was like, this is my job, but this is not my job. Like, I don't know this place. I saw the white walls, and it was like that cream colored type white. And I saw people that I didn't recognize. I saw cubicles that looked very different from the desk I was in. They were much smaller than what I'm used to. And I saw this map on the wall, and I could not help but stare at this map. And I was just like, where is this? I don't know why I'm here. And this was supposed to be my job. And I was just like, yeah, okay, this is not my job, whatever. Now, at this time that I had this dream, I had no idea I was going to get laid off in, I think at the time that I had this, it would have been in a year after that dream. I didn't know. I had no idea. There was nothing to indicate that I was going to be laid off, right? And it wasn't until I was in the new job at that time and I saw the stupid map that I saw in the dream and my whole body kind of like vibrated that I realized, oh my gosh, this is the job. This is the job I dreamed about. These are the cubicles. I looked around, I was like, these are the cubicles. That's the stupid map. So what happened? I don't know. This particular moment was just very vivid for me. And I just happened to remember it, I guess. But there was no reason to remember it. There was just sometimes certain things that you see don't make any sense. And when I say don't make any sense, I mean that there doesn't seem to be a real reason that you're seeing it. You just see it. There is a dream that I had. And another thing, it's important to write down your dreams. It helps to write it down. Sometimes you can go back and you can look at it, but just write down as many as you can. You're not going to always have the time to write them down, but it does help to do so. Now, there is a dream that I had about a future job that I still haven't experienced yet. And I remember it a lot because it was vivid and it was a scenario. And mind you, it kind of reminds me of the scenario with the coworker where I got in trouble because I had the dream twice and I reacted to it in two different ways. And it was really back and forth with a coworker. The first time he said something to me and I didn't defend myself, and the second time I did defend myself. But that place and that coworker hasn't happened yet. So when it does happen, I don't even know when it will happen. I don't know where this place is. I don't know what job, what position I'm doing. I just remember the interaction. I know it's going to happen in the future, but I don't know how far in the future. It could be years from now. Who knows? I had this dream over a year ago. I would have to go in my journal to see exactly when, but it was a while ago. I don't even remember if I wrote it down or not. I just remember the dream because I had it more than once and I responded in two different ways. So sometimes certain things will happen in like a year or so. So it may take a little bit more time, but none of the stuff that I've seen has ever happened as far as like these type of dreams where it's like work or an interaction with someone, it was never like 10 years down the line. That has never happened. Generally speaking, it's within a year or 2 or 3. And every time I relive it, it feels like a very strong case of deja vu. It's not your typical deja vu, but it's the kind where you just feel like you were snapping into place, like you're snapping into this thing that happened. And it feels a little jarring because you're like, oh, it feels like I relived this so many times. You know, just kind of like with this situation where I dreamt about the same scenario 3 times. It feels like I lived 3 times the same life. That's how it feels, at least in the moment. Another example that is, or maybe it could help, I don't know, but thinking you have something that you don't have because you didn't get it yet. So I can't remember the tool right now. What was it? There was a tool I ordered. I was doing a lot of different renovation type stuff, such as painting, putting up floating shelves, putting up pictures and whatever. And there was a tool that I had gotten, and I can't remember the tool, but let's say that I was getting a ruler. There's those rulers that I did get actually that have the little liquid in it where it kind of balances things so you can put up pictures or you can put up your floating shelves like I did. So let's pretend it was that. Okay, so I had looked for it and I remember I had gotten the ruler. It had been in a particular type of plastic that I had ripped over. Like this person had double, triple wrapped it. And I remember how difficult it was to take the ruler out because they had overdid it with the wrapping. And I had placed it in a particular area because I was like, after unwrapping this thing, I don't even feel like doing the project anymore because it was in the evening time after work. I was already tired from the day. And then it was so hard to get into this package. I was like, I'll just put it up and I'll try again tomorrow. And so tomorrow came and I was like, okay, let me go grab this thing and I'm gonna try and use it. And it wasn't there. It was not there. And I was just like, I remember specifically putting it in this drawer. How did this ruler just disappear? And I start looking for this ruler. And then I was like, you know what? I didn't even throw away the packaging. I had laid it down somewhere because I was gonna toss it in trash, and for whatever reason I didn't. And I couldn't find the packaging. And I was just like, I put the packaging like right here. How is it not right here? Like I just don't get it. So then after some serious thought, I was like, did this actually happen? Did I get this package and put this package there? Because the packaging, all the tape on it should have been right here. Like I was fighting with that thing and like I was confused. So then I was like, there's one way I can check. Let me go look on the website to see if it was delivered. I go to the website and not only was it not delivered, but it was supposed to be delivered the next day. So of course I'm like, oh, well, that's wild. I guess that was one of those dreams that I felt was real. All right. So the day comes when the package is delivered. I go and guess what? I was tired that day. It was after work and the packaging was wrapped up the same way with all the stupid tape that this person put on there. By the time I was done, I was done. I was like, I can't do anything with this. And I just tossed the packaging down and I go and put it in the same drawer that I thought I had put it in. And when that happened, my whole body like vibrated and I felt like, okay, yeah, I already experienced this already. And I was just like, okay, stupid ruler. And I just walk off and I just sit on the couch because I was tired. So those type of dreams are a little bit different because they don't, at least to me, they don't mean anything. But sometimes they're so real that you didn't realize it was a dream, like it didn't happen. It was just a dream. Those are the most confusing ones that I have because when it comes to people, like say for example, it's so real, you thought you had a particular conversation with someone, it could get so confusing, especially when they're looking at you like, I didn't tell you this. And you're just like, oops, my bad. And I've never explained myself. I just walk off. I just know that there's some people that probably think that I'm reading their minds, and I'm not. I really am not. And I definitely freaked some people out because I was like, oh yeah, you told me blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, I didn't. And I'm just like, oh God, why? Oh, it's so confusing. Yeah, so it's best to just keep quiet, at least in my experience, because there's people, I don't know what to say. Let's just put it like this. When you're revealing things that they know they didn't reveal, and you're like, yeah, I know for a fact you said this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, how do you even know this? It's very awkward. It is extremely awkward. So I don't know what to tell you if you're going through this experience and you're just like, what do I do? Just say nothing. Just keep to yourself. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. Write it down in your journal and just leave it at that. But yeah, it does feel confusing at times because it feels like you're reliving the same life over and over and over again at times. And it's not the whole life, but it just feels that way because it's kind of like some of those movies where they went through it already and you're just like, oh, here it is again. And you're just going through it. And it's snippets. It's not like it's an entire day or a whole hour or anything like that. It's always like short, but it's specific. And most of the time it's not even important stuff. Just like with the stupid ruler and that tape, they just stand out. Some of these things stand out so much that it makes me think like, I've already lived this. I had to have already lived this, and I'm just reliving, and I just remember this so vividly because the tape pissed me off, and it did, because it was a lot of tape. And some of these other moments were probably critical, like with the job one, for example, because I was looking at the map a little too hard, and actually there was a conversation with the map. So how I remembered it was one of the directors were asking about the map, and we were staring at the map, trying to figure out what to tell her because she was asking a question, and we were just like, we don't know. Like, we don't know the answer to this. And I remember looking super hard at it and trying to figure this out. And so just remembering the map because of the question that was being posed is what ended up causing this map to be embedded in my brain. So imagine it occurring like a year prior, and you're just like, oh, that was that dream, like this stupid map. This map. Oh gosh, this map. But most things don't take that long, at least in my experience. There's some things I'm still waiting to happen. Wrote it down in the journal and just like, oh, this is supposed to be happening. I don't know when, but it will happen. The end. But again, like I stated in the beginning, all the stuff that I see is usually related to myself or people crossing over, not necessarily for huge major events that could occur. And for people that you see bigger things, all I can say is just write it down and don't fret if, I guess, some of those things don't happen. For me, I haven't had something not happen, but that's because I think it's focused on my life. But when it comes to other things and other lives, I think it's a possibility that it could not happen, mostly because there may be that break in the chain. Like I gave the scenario, the fake scenario earlier with the person going on vacation. There's so many different things that could potentially impact something. And that's important because everything is dependent on everything else. So when it comes to bigger events, then one thing could impact the whole entire scenario. So for example, if that coworker in the dream that I had 3 times where he came in and said something inappropriate, if he had gotten sick, then that wouldn't have happened. Or if he would have, for whatever reason, not went in there, that wouldn't have happened. Or if I recognized like, oh, this is the same 2 people that was in that dream, let me get out of here now, then again, that also could have prevented the situation from occurring. And you would think I would see it coming the day of, but no, I don't. I usually don't. It's usually when it's like seconds prior to the event happening, or as soon as it starts happening, that I'll recall. And again, it feels like I'm being shaken into the place, like like my whole body will vibrate. And sometimes my vision may blur a little bit, and it's just like a really strong deja vu feeling, because it's not like the typical regular deja vu where it's like, yeah, I feel like I went through this kind of thing, but it's just really, really strong, where it feels like I left my body and came back type of feeling. If you ever had out of body experiences, you'll understand what that feels like. For me, it's usually a quick, like I felt like I left and came back type of moment. Same as if you astral project, kind of like that feeling when you leave and you come back is a similar feeling, except it's very quick. So that's usually how I remember, like, oh, this happened. And I also journal, write down your dreams. That helps too, especially when you just want to look back on stuff and you're like, oh, wait, this didn't happen yet, or this happened. They feel, or at least for me, the ones that I know that's going to happen in the future feel a specific type of way. They are very realistic, number one, and they're short. They're snippets. They're not long, prolonged situations. So there's the dreams that you just have, the ones that are weird, that don't make any sense, and like you could be flying or something like that. Those type of dreams, you know that it doesn't make any sense, and you know, okay, that's not going to happen in the future. And then there's the ones that are very based in reality, that you're like, okay, this is going to happen in the future for sure. No matter, it's going to happen, and it's always very short. So a few minutes max, nothing that's very long, prolonged. So yeah, I think that for those of you that are just trying to navigate it, I'm sorry. I wish I could give more insight other than write it down, but that's generally just what I do. I have had dreams about the future since I was a child. However, as I grew older, then I started having other types of dreams that added to what I was already dreaming about. So writing it down helped, because you can always go back and look at it, and you can always reflect on some of the dreams that you've had, and then you have a better understanding of the type of dream that you're having. So for me, I have multiple types of dreams, and this may be important for some of you, because you may have multiple types of dreams, or starting to get multiple types of dreams. What other dreams could I have? So we already talked about the prophetic type dreams, the one that you see for the future, and it could be your future or related to something else. And then there's the dreams that are messages. Message dreams are very useful. These are dreams that usually are trying to help you understand a circumstance or a situation, and it may be giving you an answer. It's almost like your brain processing whatever happened for the day, or whatever happened in the past that maybe you're trying to understand, and it could be giving you some answers for it. Another dream would be, if you're someone who can feel energy, because I feel energy, then it could be someone else's energy that you're experiencing. And I say experience because what will happen is, if someone's going through a hard time, or they have a very violent passing, I might actually experience the violent passing in a dream. So I'll be experiencing as if I am them. And it's never pleasant. It's always been some of my worst dreams. And I don't want to say it's a nightmare, because it's not really a nightmare. It's just a lived experience, just living their experience. And it's always unpleasant. But that is something that has occurred too. So I'm usually trying my best to stick to myself, because other people's energy can impact you, or at least it impacts me. And the last thing I want to do is to be experiencing someone's crossing over that is incredibly violent and uncomfortable, painful, in other words. And yes, I'll feel it all as if I am them. And that's always unfortunate. The other type of dream is not really a dream, and this is something that's happened more recently in the past 1 to 2 years, and it's just like me dropping into another life. I had discussed this a little bit in another video, I can't remember which one, but I generally am very confused by these. It feels very jarring. So if this ever happens to you, just know that it's very possible that it's either a past life or maybe even a current life. It could be another life that you're living right now, but sometimes it happens where you'll drop into it. But in my experience, it's giving me a different insight of a different type of life. Sometimes you live your life and you have your insight and your beliefs based on what you experienced, but you may not know what it's like to live a completely different life and experience a different type of experience. I don't know, for lack of better words, another type of experience or another type of life. For example, if you worked all your life in jobs that were like in the office and your trajectory was having 2-parent household, going to college, going to whatever, maybe, I don't know, let's accounting type job or something, and then you got married and have kids and that's the life that you live, you may not know what it's like to live a completely different life, to be in a household with one parent and the parent didn't support you, so you didn't have the money or even the know-how to go to college. So you probably got some sort of a trade, and maybe you're working in some blue-collar job and you're doing well for yourself. And for whatever reason, maybe you never got married. You may not even have kids. You know, it's a completely different scenario. Two people living different lives, different experiences, and they may have different ways of viewing the world based on their experiences. So imagine you dropping into a completely different life and you're living this life as if it's you. You have your memories of this life, but it's completely different from yourself, especially if it's like you're a man and you're living as a woman, or you're a woman and you're living as a man. You have a completely different scenario. And so having to experience this as you're awake and you're doing it, it feels confusing because what's going on, right? And when I experienced this multiple times, when I wake up, I always felt like, wait, what is this body? What am I doing here? Who am I? Because I felt like I was someone else, and then I just woke up as a different person than what I was. But then it takes me a few seconds and I realize, oh wait, this is me. That was something else. And I believe now that that's just another life that I had lived. Either that or I'm dropping into someone else's life and I don't realize it. And that would be awkward if I was dropping into other people's lives and it's not my life in the past or possibly present. I haven't quite figured it out. Just know that it could happen, and those aren't the same as your dreams, because it doesn't feel at all like it's a dream or a vivid dream or astral dream. It just feels like another life, and time goes by the same. It doesn't go any faster or slower. Nothing looks hazy or weird. Everything feels real. So that is, or those are the reasons why I say, hey, it's important to kind of write things down, keep track of it, pay attention, try to have a better understanding of what's going on, what you're viewing, and see if you can learn anything from it. For the ones that felt like I was just living another life, I was able to learn about different experiences that I haven't had in this life. And again, it's very possible that they were actually my lives that I forgot about. And I was able to reflect on some of those things. And I'm saying this because one of the lives was me reflecting as an older gentleman, reflecting on my estranged children. And I am not a grandfather. I'm not anybody's grandfather. And I am not estranged from my children and grandchildren. That is a completely different life that I have not lived. So it gave me a perspective that I haven't had in this particular life. And I remember feeling it so vividly because it felt very real. But the point is, like, try to see if you can take away something from these dreams or from the lived experience. And for the messaging dreams, usually they can be a thinker type moment. You might have to take a while to think about them and think about what is it trying to explain to you and what is it that it's trying to teach you in the moment. Because sometimes they're more symbolic. And sometimes what will happen, another thing that will happen is if you went through an experience, let's say you got in an argument with someone and it was someone close to you, like a sibling, for example, and you went to sleep and you relived that argument, but it was relived in a different way. Like maybe you started seeing certain things or hearing other things and someone said something to you that wasn't there. Pay attention to those things because it could be giving you some insight on the situation. It could be teaching you something. It could be telling you like, hey, you allowed your anger to get in the way, or maybe you allowed your ego or whatever to misinterpret the situation, whatever. Or maybe it's telling you, hey, you did a great job with this discussion that you had with this person, and nothing you would have said could have changed it because maybe the other person wasn't interested in listening to you, whatever. It doesn't matter. You just learn from it. All that to say that it's interesting, an interesting ride, these dreams. And in all, you can dream about the future. You can see potentially the future. And just because someone else isn't capable of doing that doesn't necessarily mean that no one can do it. And the future isn't as up in the air as people think it is. There are things that are more set than not because a lot of it has to do with probability. And if I were to give you a scenario that's easy to understand, let's put it like this. If someone is addicted to gambling and you have a casino in their neighborhood, you could probably bet money that they will show up at that casino, even if they don't have any money to spend to be gambling. Because like we said in the beginning, it was a gambling addiction. But if it was just a regular person that doesn't gamble, then in that scenario, you may not be able to bet money on whether they would show up or not. You can bet if you want, but you might lose the bet. However, the gambler, the one that's addicted, you could probably win that bet, right? Well, there's certain things that are set up to occur. Like it is a high probability that it's going to occur the way things are. Like if you are an alcoholic and you drive horribly when you're drunk, it's a good chance you could hit a tree, a pole, a person, another car. If you are someone who does this consistently every single day or maybe every weekend, the likelihood of you not causing some sort of collision with something or someone is highly unlikely. So in that scenario, there's a great chance that you could potentially harm someone or even harm yourself or your car in the future if you continue doing this, right? So in that particular scenario, if someone had a dream that this person, let's say their name is Ted, Ted, and you had a dream that Ted was going to hit a pole in the future and they didn't make it. Well, there's a good chance that's going to happen based on Ted's particular habits. There's a very, very good chance. And it's very possible that he's been able to get away with it for however long, but that one particular evening, he didn't get away with it. Well, I'm using these scenarios because, it's pretty clear these people have specific habits. The thing is, a lot of people have specific habits that they do. There's people that go home around the same time every single day. There's people that have specific habits that they have built into their lives, and they're very much the same most days. And there's some people, like, they change things around a little bit. But for the most part, people aren't spontaneous all the time. They're not doing something really wild. And generally people have their personalities and they do things within what they usually or typically would do. So for the most part, if you have a lot of creatures of habits and they do specific things around specific times and they act a specific way and they have a particular personality and they have a habit of reacting a particular way to certain things, there's a pretty good chance that you can possibly predict what may occur. And so if you are someone that's looking at all of this and you're trying to determine, okay, how can we get this person to meet that person because they're supposed to, get together and have a future together or something. Well, you could probably say, okay, well, this person goes here at this time. Maybe we need to give this person the idea to go to the same place. And then boom, they can meet each other and live happily ever after in the future or something like that, right? And I'm using that scenario as if I'm one of the guardians or something. But this scenario is kind of a simplified version of essentially what could potentially happen as far as things occurring in the future. Some of this stuff is able to happen because people are creatures of habit. Certain things happen. If you throw a ball up in the air, it will fall. So it's not completely out of the norm or out of the realm of possibilities for certain people to show up at certain places and for certain scenarios to occur based on their personalities. In order for some things to not occur, there would have to be a change. Just like I gave the example about the person going on vacation and that their passport was going to expire within 6 months. Well, that was the change. They were going to go on this vacation, but their passport inhibited them. So maybe someone was going to drive inebriated to their homes, but they had drank so much that they passed out and they never drove, missing the opportunity of hitting the pole that you saw them hitting, right? So that would be an example of something that could have potentially happened in the future that didn't. But the likelihood of it happening was extremely high based on the habits of this person and what they choose to do. So it's a mixture of choices, but also what could potentially happen in addition to those choices. If you make the choice to do what this person does, like they're going to the bar every single day and they're not ensuring that they're getting a ride or that they have another way of getting home aside from getting in the car themselves and driving home, then that increases the risk of something negative happening, whether it's to them or to someone else, right? And so if, again, you have that prophetic dream of something happening to this person, it could very well happen. And if it didn't, it could potentially have been a situation where there was a miss or a near miss kind of situation. I personally have not had this happen to me, but I do believe that this happens to people, and it may not happen to everyone, but I'm saying this because I feel like because my experience are usually very limited, that those people that can see huge things like major events, that those people, the reason why they may miss something is because those events are based on several factors. It's not based on like one person or a handful of people. It's based on so many different scenarios that it's very possible that if one thing changes, it just completely impacts the whole scenario. If everyone is going on a freeway and they're all going at the same speed, or at least similar speeds, to get to a particular location. And then you have that one truck that he comes in and he falls asleep or something happens and now he blocks the traffic. That could prevent a particular accident that would have happened further down in the road somewhere else. It could have prevented maybe a particular person that was an engineer for a flight that was supposed to work on the flight, and maybe he would have done a terrible job and it would have prevented the particular airplane from taking off properly, causing that to crash, right? Like certain things in the chain of events could have prevented something else from happening, and those really large events can be impacted by that. That's why it's so hard to say for sure sometimes with those really big above and beyond type scenarios that, okay, well, this definitely will or won't happen. And the time that you get the information, it will happen. But by that time, something could have occurred to prevent this from happening. And I do feel, I could be wrong, but I do feel that if you have the knowledge of something potentially happening and okay, well, this is supposed to probably happen in, I don't know, October of 2027 or something, that you do have the possibility of potentially preventing that from occurring. I feel like that's a huge possibility. I think that's possible. That's my opinion. I think what happens is oftentimes when you have those people that give predictions, really huge predictions, that some people don't believe that they could be right, and so they don't do anything about it. And I often wonder in those scenarios where you've gotten those predictions and they've been right so many times, I wonder if there are people on the ground that say, oh, this person predicted this around this time. Let's see if we can prevent it. Let's see if there's anything that can be done. Like, I always wonder about this. I know for my circumstances, like I said, it's never huge, big stuff. It's always personal. I've had the opportunity to make changes with some of my interactions or what I do. I gave a pretty good scenario earlier where I had 3 dreams in 3 consecutive nights, and I was able to change the scenario and what ended up happening. But again, that was just a personal circumstance. So I truly feel like it could happen with bigger ones too. And I also feel like it's probably easier to prevent it. I could be wrong. It may not be easier, but I feel like it could be easier. I think the hard part would be trying to figure out what would cause the chain of events, to know what you need to break in that scenario to prevent it from occurring. Like, what do you need to do to prevent this? What allow this to happen or to occur? And I guess that scenario. But either way, if you're someone who has had prophetic dreams or you've dreamt of the future, then, please let me know some of the things that has happened. I don't believe this is uncommon. I think everyone at one point in time has had a dream for the future, even if it was brief or small or just one time. It may not be as common as me, where you're seeing a lot of stuff going on and it feels like you're living the same life over and over again because it's just so common. But I do feel that this isn't as uncommon as people try to make it out to be. And I think that if you're one of those people that you have it a little bit more, or maybe you've seen bigger events, you may feel like, hey, I need to have a clique or something, maybe a group. Maybe you feel alone. Maybe you feel like you don't have anyone around you that experienced the same thing and you want to be able to connect. So there you go. Hopefully this has helped. Hopefully I've given you some information that may be able to help you in the future, or maybe you feel less alone because there's someone else that is experiencing similar things that you're experiencing. Or maybe you could feel like you're not going crazy, because a lot of times when those of us who can see things that we probably shouldn't, or maybe we should, maybe it's normal, maybe we're supposed to, but generally when you see things that are outside of the norm, there are people that make you feel like something's wrong with you. Like, what is wrong with you? You know, just like I had mentioned before, speaking on things that I shouldn't know, and the person's looking at me wild, like, what the hell, how did you know this? You know, it can feel very awkward, out of place. You feel like you don't belong. You just confused, like, oops. But I think that it probably should be more normalized, because this isn't something that's new, in my opinion. And we've definitely seen books. I've always gotten excited when I see stories or read in books where someone has a dream and something similar happens, whether it's a symbolic type dream or they actually see the scenario in the future. I always love it because it makes me feel like, I know I'm not crazy. You know I can't be the only one. This isn't something new. I truly feel like this is a lot more common than people try to make it out to seem. And I felt very strongly that the NDE that I had, and I had mentioned before, that there has to be other people that had seen this and maybe they dismissed it. I just feel like maybe someone else has, and I put it out there because I feel like now maybe other people might feel a little bit more comfortable coming forward with their stories and their scenario and what they know. And I think if more and more people talk about it, maybe there's a chance that it could be prevented. Because just like with my dream with that same coworker, where I had the dream 3 times and I was able to see different scenarios, maybe other people have details that can help, so that you can say, oh, well, this happened. Maybe if that doesn't happen, we can prevent the future. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can change it. You have the knowledge and you know that this could potentially happen. So maybe someone has some of those kind of like steps prior to, because all I could tell you is what I saw was extremely devastating, and it wasn't fixable where I saw it, because what I saw was the peak. I didn't see anything leading up. So the people that sees or saw things, depending on, you know, if you're having the dreams or not, saw things leading up to it, then you have the key, la clave, you have the key for possibly preventing this, unless you don't want to, which is a whole nother story. But thank you so much for listening in. Go ahead and leave whatever information that you have, if you have any, and also, you know, go ahead and talk about some of the dreams that you had in the future. I would love to read them. Talk to you later. Take care. Bye.